So we're good? Hello? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this side event on showcasing support opportunities available for developing countries to implement your existing measurement, reporting, and verification arrangements under the convention, and also the enhanced transparency framework under the Paris Agreement. Certainly, it is very good to meet in an in-person setting after almost 2 years of being confined to our own individual four corners. It is quite refreshing. Nevertheless, we are still not out of the woods, so we will still need to observe the safety protocols here. So I would encourage everyone to keep your face mask on, and but please feel free to take it off as and when you speak. So today we have a group of panel members here who play an instrumental role in delivering support to developing countries, and I look forward to hearing from them on what and how they are helping countries in their long journey to get ready and transition to the enhanced transparency framework in coming months and year. In the context of measurement, reporting, and verification arrangements under the convention and enhanced transparency framework, there is a widespread recognition that developing countries will need support. We see that sentiment being echoed strongly in negotiation, as well as amongst policymakers and practitioners from developing countries. So with that in mind, we, in the Secretariat, we wanted to create an informal space outside of negotiation for key actors to come together and engage. Our hope is that the support opportunities that are available gets much closer to the ground where they are needed. So please use this as an opportunity to reach out and get to know each other, because I think that is the first crucial step. So without further much ado, we will get started with our session today. We will kick off with a pre-recorded video to introduce a training program that we in the Secretariat had launched over last few years in collaboration with number of partners, both from government side as well as international programs and initiatives and academic institutions. The program itself, we call it as Climate Action and Transparency Training Program, and under that we have launched 3 modules. One that deals with capacity development on inventories, a second one on adaptation, and third one on ETF blended with policy impact assessment. So with that, can I ask our technical colleagues to put the video on screen?
The UNFCCC Climate Action and Support Transparency Training, or UNFCCC CAST, is a professional training program launched in 2017. The primary objective of the program is to promote effective and universal participation of countries in the MRV arrangements under the Convention and the ETF under the Paris Agreement through a targeted, professional, and comprehensive capacity building program. It is designed to cater to different levels of stakeholder groups in the chain of the national climate governance and implementation. The target groups are policymakers who are providing leadership, vision, and policy direction on climate change, policy implementers who are instrumental in translating the vision and policy direction into concrete actions on the ground, and the technical experts who implement the action plans. Under the umbrella of the CAST program, a range of training initiatives are offered to developing counterparties to facilitate the preparation of national communications and biennial update reports in a timely manner, as well as to improve readiness to the ETF under the Paris Agreement. In that context, there are currently 3 training modules offered to interested parties. The UNFCCC GIR CAST program on greenhouse gases since 2017, Adaptation Academy on Vulnerability and Adaptation Assessment launched this year, and the ETF blended course focusing on transparency arrangements and mitigation policy assessment also launched this year. To roll out these trainings successfully and timely, we are collaborating with several institutions. Our partner at the UNFCCC GIR CAST program is the Greenhouse Gas Inventory and Research Center of Korea. For the blended course on climate transparency and ETF, we are in collaboration with ICAT, UNEP-DTU Partnership, Global Support Program, and the UN System Staff College. And for the Adaptation Academy, we are collaborating with the Alliance for Global Water Adaptation, Asian Institute for Technology, IHE Delta Institute for Water Education, KEI Korea Adaptation Center for Climate Change, and Oregon State University. Please note that further information can be accessed from our website. And now we will listen to our partners to learn some more details about the training modules and their experiences. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Milan Oh. I'm an associate researcher at Korea's Greenhouse Gas Inventory and Research Center, also known as GIR. It is my great pleasure to meet with everyone at COP26 here in Glasgow and to have a valuable opportunity to share our experiences of collaboration with the UNFCCC Secretariat.
I would like to proudly present GIR's training program, UNFCCC GIR CAST program on greenhouse gases. The program is organized every year by GIR in collaboration with UNFCCC Secretariat and supported by our significant partner, PATPA Secretariat. The program is a 4-week intensive training on greenhouse gas inventory preparation for national experts in developing countries. Selected trainees are invited to Korea to attend lectures, participate in group discussions, and also experience Korean culture. As you can see from the training schedule, lecture topics cover various areas of greenhouse gas inventory, including emission sectors such as energy, IPPU, and AFOLU. So far, we have a total of 124 trainees from 74 countries successfully completed the program since 2017. GIR hopes that anyone who meets eligibility requirement apply for the program and join us on this exciting journey. Then what was the gap that triggered GIR to plan and deliver the program? Under the new climate regime, there has been increased demand from developing countries for a professional training program in greenhouse gas emissions accounting and tracking of mitigation progress. Considering such needs, GIR launched the training program in 2011 to contribute to strengthening technical capacity and competency of experts from developing countries based on Korea's experiences in preparing comprehensive greenhouse gas inventory. Then how did GIR and UNFCCC Secretariat came together to better respond to the need for a targeted capacity building program? To provide enhanced support in development of skill-based curriculum and outreach activities, UNFCCC and GIR agreed to jointly deliver the training program under the UNFCCC CAST umbrella in 2017. As a result of strong cooperation between the Secretariat and GIR, the program has been further advanced to continuously promote active participation of countries in the MRV arrangements under the Enhanced Transparency Framework. For further details regarding the program, you can visit GIR website or contact me by email. I'll be happy to provide more information and answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much for allowing me to introduce our training program. We are very much looking forward to continued cooperation with UNFCCC Secretariat.
In 2018, in partnership with the UNFCCC, we met with the representatives of more than 100 countries, their national adaptation focal points, to provide 4 days of intense training on what is the state of the art in climate adaptation. And the great lesson that we took from there is that countries really need an intensive introduction to be able to do 3 things. One is to be able to look across ministries and think about how adaptation ripples across sectors, across disciplines, and across domains of public policy and application. They also need to look down. They need to look to subnational levels of governance. What's happening with cities, with businesses, with civil society, with even individual members of their country, and how to make sure that there's coherent and coordinated action at that level that can be captured at the national level. And lastly, each country also needs to be able to look out to their brother and sister countries and think about how to make sure that that they're reporting in through the Paris Agreement and that they're contributing around adaptation in partnership with the global community of nations. And we needed the Adaptation Academy, the CAST Adaptation Academy. The initial conversation was between AGWA and the consultative group of experts within the UNFCCC, and we saw a couple of key points. One is that we needed to make sure that we were operating within the context of the Paris Agreement, especially the Enhanced Transparency Framework, and that we were clearly meeting those needs. So the UNFCCC itself was critical to have involved in a leadership position. AGWA's role was to be able to act as a kind of connector between the NDC focal points on adaptation issues, but also between the campuses where content was being delivered. So there was a consistent set of messages. There was a clear monitoring and evaluation process for curriculum and education and development. Korean Environment Institute, KEI, has also been really critical in supporting that role as well. And then lastly, we needed to be able to work through 3 regionally oriented campuses. They were delivering adaptation action messages, policy advice that was in a local and regional context. And for Latin America and the Caribbean, that is Oregon State University in Oregon in the United States. For Europe and for Africa, that is IHE Delft in the Netherlands. And then for Asia and the Pacific region, that is Asian Institute of Technology in Bangkok. Our job in the CAST Adaptation Academy is not to put our finger down on specific methodologies, but is really to make sure that each of the countries has a good sense of what are the options that are available for them to be able to implement, to advise, to enhance and support adaptation action and policies in their country and as they engage at a global level too. So we want to present a kind of cafeteria of choices and options with a sense of clear examples about how they can take their work to the next level, and ideally that they can enhance their existing NDC, move towards a global stock take, showing a lot of progress, and finally be able to present their second NDC with even more ambitious goals and actions. If you're interested in learning more about the CAST Adaptation Academy, then I suggest that you go to UNFCCC.int/CASTT-adaptation-academy.
The facilitated e-learning course on climate transparency and the ETF was a collaborative effort between ICAT, the UNFCCC Secretariat, UNEP's Global Support Program, UNEP-DTU Partnership, and the UN System Staff College. By bringing together the specialist skills and knowledge of these partners, we were able to develop a state-of-the-art course on transparency that meets the needs of its participants. The course helps participants to understand the broader role of transparency to shape policy and drive action to achieve the objectives of the Paris Agreement. It enables them to integrate mitigation action into their country's domestic policy planning processes, like the SDGs. The course introduces tools and methodologies that can assist countries. This includes the series of ICAT policy assessment guides and various data and modeling tools. The first course targeted Anglophone Africa and ran over 7 weeks. The course will be supplemented by an in-person training workshop offered to select participants who have successfully completed the online components. Self-paced online modules mixed with virtual classrooms provide participants with a versatile yet engaging format to achieve the best learning outcomes. Participants' feedback on the first round of the course has been very positive, highlighting its relevance, practical nature, and the regional focus. As the first round of the e-learning course has now come to an end, we are planning further rounds of the training for other regions and in other languages next year. Calls for application and further information can be found on ICAT's website, climateactiontransparency.org.
Thank you. I believe so there was some technical issue, and as a result, those who were following online could not hear the sound. So my big apologies. We tried to address correct the technical issue, but unfortunately we failed to manage to solve the issue. Thank you. So we will now move to the panel discussion. I will promise that this part of the discussion will be much more interesting. Apologies for giving you another dose of virtual event. I know that in the last 2 years we have had endless virtual this thing. So we'll start with the panel discussion now, and we, as I mentioned earlier, we have a steamed group of panelists here. There are 3 of them in person here, and then 2 more joining us remotely. So let me quickly introduce the panel members. On my left, we have Giris. I'm sure most of you already know her. She is the lead environmental specialist in GEF, and in the UNFCCC process, she is the face of the GEF here. So, but thank you. I know you're extremely busy, but thank you for joining us. And then we have Miriam Heinostroza from UNEP. She is the head of Global Climate Action Unit at UNEP. She is not here in person, but she will be providing her perspective, sharing her perspective remotely. We also have a third panel member who is connected to this event, I hope. Mr. Sandro Federici. He is head of the technical support unit of the IPCC task force on greenhouse gas inventories. And then on my right, Dr. Henning Wuster. He is the Director of Initiative for Climate Action Transparency, and he is based in Bonn, and we work quite closely. And then finally, Mr. WILEY Barbour, he is the Senior Director of Caribbean Cooperative MRV Hub, and I know that WILEY has been also doing some exciting project, and we would love to hear from you. So with that, let me now start with Giris. If I could ask you to give us a brief update on the financial and technical support that Jeff has been providing to developing countries for transparency. I know that there has been some recent development, so I think that will be very interesting to hear to our participants. It's all yours.
Thank you so much, Jigme, and thank you for inviting us to participate in this side event, and I think this is a very, very important topic. So I will just focus on the ETF side. Any questions on the MRV part, we can take it later. So on the ETF, the GEF is supporting parties, I would say from two different perspectives. One is on building capacity for transparency. Then the other element is more to do with supporting the actual preparations of the Millennium Transparency reports that the party is supposed to be submitting. So let me just first talk about the CBIT, which is on the capacity side. There is a program that GF has been supporting since 2016 after the Paris Agreement decision to establish the Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency. It is open to all parties upon request, and is really supposed to be helping countries build capacity for them to be able to address the enhanced transparency of support as well as enhanced transparency of action. To date, I guess 2021, now we're coming up to the 5th anniversary of the CBIT, and to date we have supported 79 countries to build their capacity, and for a total of about $130 million. This has been supported through a dedicated trust fund, but now it has been mainstreamed into the GF Trust Fund, and we are committed to continue to support the CBIT until and unless parties tell us not to do so. So we are open. Every proposal that comes to us from parties upon request, once it's technically cleared, it gets support. Let me say a few words on what kinds of support the parties are requesting. We have provided what we call a non-exhaustive list of menu of options, but it's up to parties to tell us where you need the capacity support the most. Categories of support that parties have asked for so far, one is in tracking mitigation progress. Another one is national inventory, really trying to reinforce the inventory action, tracking support related to support, and then tracking adaptation progress. And we've also had a number of parties, I would say about 64%, that are very much interested in enhancing the NDCs as well as policy design. So I would say there is a great variety of needs that the CBIT can address for the parties. And at this point, like I said, with 79 countries, in terms of the greenhouse gas emission coverage globally, we're about 2/3. Number of parties, I think we have still ways to go. So if you're interested, please come talk to us. And let me just talk about the actual reporting support. And as you know, parties now are transitioning to the Millennium Transparency Reporting Framework. And the first report will be due no later than December of 2024. There is some flexibility accorded to LDCs and SIDS. So because we were given guidance to support the BTRs in countries, February of this year, we rolled out modalities, and we notified all the countries about the rollout of the support for BTRs. If your country is interested in starting your work on BTRs, support is available. Please come talk to us. As of now, we have 11 countries that have already been approved to do their BTRs. 12 reports are going to be supported because one country asked for multiple reports. BTRs, we are supporting in the range of $484,000 for a report. And if you want to combine the BTR with your national communications moving forward, you also have an option to combine the two for $517,000. In addition to this, we do understand there might be additional needs for global support. So we also have the global support program through the CBIT, which actually has been, let me just backtrack. We used to have the CBIT global support, and we also have the global support for the national communications BUIs. We have merged the two. We're continuing to provide this kind of technical backstopping to all parties. So that option will still continue to be available to parties. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're doing. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheese. Well, there were a lot of important information in there, and I think it should be very reassuring for parties to hear that CBIT will continue as it was intended right from day one. And also, it's also very reassuring to hear that now the funding arrangements for biennial transparency reports are in place. I think that's a very important one. And now the ball is in the court of developing countries to start preparing project proposals. So thank you so much. We will do a round of Q&A at the end. So if you do have any questions, please hold it on for now. Next, we will move to Dr. Henning Wister from ICARD. I know the ICAT initiative has been growing, expanding rapidly over the last few years. So it would be really interesting to hear what opportunities are there for developing countries in terms of technical and or financial support, and how can interested partners take advantage of the opportunity that exists with your initiative.
Thank you very much, Jigme, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. Very happy to be in a setting where we can have some face-to-face engagement. Really nice to see so many of you here, and have been using already the last week to have lots of bilateral meetings with countries, which really have been very much appreciated, even though we have, of course, done a lot of good work online over the last 2 years, but it's still, there's something missing, and we are catching up with that now. Very much a pleasure to give you a brief overview on what ICAT is doing and how that can be useful to developing countries. Our focus is to support developing countries on all aspects of the ETF, but we zoom in on the support of activities where countries want to use data for policy making and want to create data frameworks and processes that allow that forward-looking aspect, which is really a new aspect which was brought in through the Paris Agreement. So ICAT offers 3 ways in providing support. The first one is direct country support. The second one is regional transparency hubs. And the third one is the ICAT toolbox. On the first one, the direct country support, that's probably the main activity at this stage. We have ICAT projects in over 40 countries. These are short, focused activities built very much on the special needs and the specific needs of countries and their priorities and tailored to their situations. These projects usually last between 12 and 18 months, and then they can be followed up with a second a follow-up project to deepen the engagement, to move into another area, or advance the work that has been initiated in the first project. We ensure that more than 50% of our funds are actually spent in the country for national experts and activities at the national level. But we also have international experts that are resource persons and provide advisory support and training as needed. Concerning the regional hubs, we are currently setting up 2 of these regional hubs. The first one is for the Congo Basin countries in Central Africa, the member states of the Economic Community of Central African States, and we are collaborating with ECAS to set up a regional center at ECAS with experts on transparency there, but also make available resources for national experts to be hired by the member states. The second hub that we are setting up is in Central Asia, and here we are collaborating with the Regional Environment Center of Central Asia, CAREC, and we are also very much advanced in establishing this hub and again a regional center at CAREC and funds for the participating countries. The third element is the ICAT toolbox. ICAT has published a large number of methodologies, and we offer a range of data tools, both for modeling and for data management. As I said at the beginning, our focus is on support to use data to assess climate policies and measures as part of planning processes ex ante, during implementation, and ex post to evaluate effectiveness of measures. And the tools are really focused on that aspect. They are freely available through our website, but we use them also in our country projects and in our regional activities, together with then support from international experts. Countries that are interested in ICAT support should contact us. We are here to explain more about what is feasible. We have open rounds for calls of expressions of interest by countries, and we plan to do another round in 2022. If you would like to hear more about the substantive scope of ICAT projects and some of the results achieved, I want to invite you to our side event next week on Thursday, the 11th. It's in this very room, and it will offer insights from ministers and senior officials from Chad, Costa Rica, Nigeria, and Germany on using transparency for NDC implementation and development. So looking forward to your questions and a nice discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Henning, and you provided a very crisp gist of what ICAT offers, and now that you know the face behind ICAT, I would encourage you to get in touch with Henning and engage with him should you need some technical and financial support. I believe you do provide financial support as well, right?
Integrated.
Yeah.
Both technical and financial support, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So we will move to next panel member, and we will mix up with in-person and virtual. So we will take virtual one from virtual participation. I'll move to Miriam. I hope you are ready. So Miriam, I will also ask you similar kind of question as to what opportunities exist with UNEP in terms of financial. I guess with UNEP it's more of technical support, technical support on transparency area. Miriam? You will need to unmute yourself.
All right, it appeared just now the button to unmute. So apologies for that, and good afternoon, everyone. Very nice to join you this time. So after it's a little bit, anyways, after this presentation, I think mine be more complementary to what you have said, because UNEP is an institute of the global environmental. But nevertheless, let me provide a little bit of context with regards to UNEP support to reporting and transparency. Now, the UNEP addressed climate crisis from in its strategy for the next 5 years. The climate crisis and the crisis. Acting on climate change, committed to transparency on the environmental performance and carbon footprint in goods and services, which must remain at the goal line with multiple agreed norms and standards. As an implementing agency to the GEF, UNEP helps countries meet their reporting of under the UNFCC. And recently, to transparent requirements under the Paris Agreement, including now the ICARD, to operationalize. So, in terms of support to the UNFCC, since the convention entered into force, UNEP has been supporting countries to access their funds by helping them conceptualize, prepare public proposals, for enabling activities for national communication and support. So far, UNEP has supported more than 100 countries with enabling national communication, with funds of up to $500,000 each, and enabling activities for 2 hours, funds up to 300,000. In addition to the enabling activities, as Giris mentioned, the global support program started 10 years ago, and it's coming to its end under current modality. So this is another opportunity for countries to get technical support to prepare national communications and support. So the global support program provided a lot of support to capacity building through national workshops, serious technical and holding exercises, peer reviews, and South-South collaboration was very appreciated because of this. The global program established a series of work. So development of an online course transparency was also possible thanks to collaboration with ICAT, the UNFCC, as well. So the global super program is now finished with the second phase that is set, with a more comprehensive program to address the and this brings me to tell you how UNEP under the Paris Agreement. First, UNEP has been supporting countries to get access to population funds by supporting the preparation of single country proposals of different costs, tailor-made to each country's needs to advance its transparency requirements. So far, UNEP has produced 36 projects mobilizing around $0.5 US funds. The development of the safety portfolio in UNEP has been possible thanks to the collaboration with countries and the UNEP. Second, UNEP hosts manages the CBAC global coordination platform that we mentioned. This online platform was designed to facilitate peer learning and knowledge exchange, serve as an important repository of CBAC projects, activities, outputs, and outcomes, as well as finding capacity. Under the CBAC global platform, global technical workshop is also convened to bring together countries to CBAC support. This organized going forward, as mentioned, the global support program and the CBAC global coordination platform are merging into one comprehensive program to provide countries with a one-stop shop to provide streamlined support and capacity at the country, national and global level, enable countries to better respond to reporting requirements and specialize increased content. This enhanced program will use three main service needs. First, it will build on the successful foundation of delivery models of global coordination actions to leverage long-standing health networks and developing countries. Second, the program will use an agile approach to address new issues in the research as they arise, which will maintain supportive to and integrate guidance related to the modality guidelines of the transparency framework. Because the project emphasizes stakeholder collaboration, it will mobilize experts on changes in climate policy landscape. Third, the program will utilize partnership model for delivery. The integration of the global coordination platform into a comprehensive program with UNEP and UNDP combined expertise and engage the UNEP for implementation, while simplifying access and participation. So preparing a project proposal for the GEF takes time, and the approval process ensures high-quality project. Continued support is important to maintain and retain knowledge in countries. The GSP has served well, merging this with CBIT under an enhanced program will strengthen delivery of support. And certainly it cannot end here. So UNEP is at disposal of countries whenever they need support to prepare and conceptualize projects to the GEF. So I think I'll stop here unless, and respond questions to the end. Thank you, Jigme.
Thank you, Miri. So we will now move to the fourth speaker, and I'll invite Wiley to, if you can speak to the experience from your Caribbean cooperative MRV hub. I look at that model as something which is purely or mainly ownership driven support mechanism, and one that is that has a potential to become self-sustaining going forward. So it will be interesting to hear from you the kind of model and principles that you have adopted for this hub, and what was your experience running this hub and the impact that you see on the ground as a result of that intervention.
Thank you, Jigme. A great intro there. Appreciate that. And welcome to everyone here in the room as well as those joining us online. Experience, yeah. Here we are at COP26. My first COP, and I've missed a lot of them, was COP6. So 20 years later, you know the old saying, the more things change, the more things stay the same. So capacity building, I'm happy to talk about that because it's integral to the work of the COP. And we can do better, we must do better. And when it comes to capacity building, we are doing better. So I am representing the Caribbean Cooperative MRV Hub. It's a new regional service institution. It's designed to support our member countries in their efforts to improve their MRV systems, build Paris Agreement reporting capabilities, and enhance their domestic policymaking process. And one of the key design innovations of the MRV Hub is that it functions as a true learning and mentoring cooperative. So capacity building, mentoring, apprenticeship, and virtual and in-person educational programming, it's integrated into everything we do. And the MRV Hub project is funded by the German government's International Climate Initiative. We work with Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, is St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Trinidad and Tobago. And we are, as Jigme said, fortunate to have, start off with this 5-year grant from the German government, but the project duration is permanent. We are not going to be happy with finishing that grant and being done. So we are well on our way to being sustainable, and that's what I'd kind of like to talk to you a little bit about. But first, let me just recognize, the project lead is the organization that I work for, the Greenhouse Gas Management Institute. We're very happy to have support from the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Secretariat. Their regional collaboration center at St. George's, which is based in Grenada, is extremely important for our work. And we've also been supported by UNEP and the UNDP Global Support Program, and look forward to the Global Support Program's continuing support over the next 2 years of our project. And so to achieve our mission, the activities of the hub include multi-country working sessions where we bring people to Grenada and all sit together in their amazing conference facilities. We've had Jigme come out a number of times, and I'm hoping to see lots more visitors come and share once the COVID nightmare is over. We also do a lot of bilateral mentoring trips where we'll go and visit for a week or more in a country and help them in whatever way we're requested to do so. We do all kind of different types of training sessions. We have a fellowship program and bring on interns. We have a regional advisor program. So different ways that we engage and we can, support people in their career development and in their understanding and better understanding of these systems. We work also on sort of the technology side with strengthening data management systems. But everything we do is flexibly designed to adapt to the evolving country needs for climate transparency. And I do think we have some things that are innovative about our approach. And all of us know, I think, because you're here because of this issue of capacity building, that the workforce today is completely insufficient to meet the requirements of the Paris Agreement and everything we're talking about here, and we all know that. So this is a really important thing that has to get done, not just in the Caribbean, but worldwide. And our goal is not to just impart theoretical knowledge. This is capacity building as job training, and that's what's needed. So we train early and we train often. And one of the first things you have to do when you're doing this kind of training is to just know your audience. You have to conduct some proper assessment of the knowledge base and understanding before you even design the courses that you're going to deliver, and then also do the appropriate monitoring and evaluation ongoing, both on an individual basis as well as regionally, so you understand how people are learning and how each course and training event is helping them develop. And we also like to follow up with our students, and so we can make sure that this is efficacious. We really believe in sensitization courses because we realize that maybe before you get hit with a full-on course on the IPCC guidelines, maybe you can just do something like enroll in our summer academy, where we know that these people have not yet really been fully exposed to the IPCC reports and all of the requirements of the United Nations process. And so don't take anything for granted, right? So we try to come in and do ease students into a greater understanding before enrolling in advanced instruction. So that might mean maybe we shouldn't assume a certain knowledge of even things like Excel. Maybe we should teach the basics of using Excel and show that in a hands-on way, or demonstrate how to use the IPCC software or other tools. Maybe we need to really just teach on QA/QC, just basic principles, and integrate case studies and hands-on exercises and homework assignments, and then follow up maybe at the end of the week with office hours so that the students can bring their work and then talk it over and provide feedback and support throughout. And when ready, then we can begin enrolling students in appropriately rigorous courses with the pedagogy and adherence to, in many cases, things like the IPCC guidelines or, best practices in terms of modeling and mitigation, MRV system design, and all the different types of Paris Agreement requirements. And for me, and I think for all of us on this project, we think it's really important to teach with your heart. This isn't just some dry academic thing we're doing, right? So students can be a little intimidated if you have fancy titles, and you show up with fancy degrees, but they'll learn more if they're comfortable with their instructors and comfortable to the point where they feel okay to ask questions and to seek clarification. And if instructors don't display a little bit of that understanding, really just kind of a human level, a little compassion maybe, and understanding everybody's got their own personal and national circumstances to deal with, especially, we're still in the middle of this pandemic. That's important. and following up with learners in the months and years after their training. Because, you know, we never stop learning, and it's an ongoing process. So lots of other things I'd be happy to talk about in terms of how, you know, we do the capacity building, but we're also very aware that we're also building a company. And so we're doing it in a way that's preparing for a regional institution that can stand on its own and won't need, you know, to seek out, you know, kind of funding for that. We can respond to the needs of the climate change directors and the departments in the region, and really, you know, kind of competitively bid for projects, because I believe in like open source procurement, where you know, proposals are submitted and the best ones chosen, and that's what we're training our people to be able to do, and to compete with the best firms in the world that do that work as well.
Thank you, Wiley. As I said, I think that there are a number of lessons learned and experiences from your pilot case study, which is now becoming more and more mainstream. So thank you very much. Let's move on to our final speaker, Sandro from IPCC Technical Support Unit. I understand that TFI Technical Support Unit does not really provide technical support as such, but I think you have been involved in promoting or helping countries with the use of IPCC software. So my question to you is, if you can give us some update on what is happening with the IPCC, if you have any latest news or update on the IPCC software, and whether you have any plans in near future to engage with developing countries in terms of, you know, application of the software that you develop. Sandro?
Jigme, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. I had some technical difficulties at the beginning of the meeting. Yes, the IPCC software. The IPCC software at the moment is undergoing some major upgrades in terms of capacity for in order to be capable to calculate according with all the methodological tiers and the methodological approaches that the IPCC 2006 guidelines and the wetland supplement provides to the inventory compilers. We hope to release next year a version that has complete capacity for all the sectors, all categories. We are testing a version that already afford and energy, which are the most, the biggest sector in terms of emissions, are already completed. We are testing. Actually, we are thinking to have a kind of event to show the new functionalities to the users. Because this upgrade is a major upgrade, the complexity of the software is increasing significantly. For instance, this version is 10 times bigger in terms of kilobytes than the previous one. So we are working on a guidebook that may guide the user category by category in using the enhanced capacity that now is in the software. We are adding a lot of flexibility. The users may use a combination of tiers for the same category. They may go for a subnational reporting. So there are countries that have a federal constitution. They have a number of inventories that need to be summed up to have the national. The software now, the new software, the software that we are developing, will allow for that. We enhanced the structure in order to be fully compatible with the new Windows versions, and so we hope to show this new software next year as soon as practicable, and to provide this new guidebook also for let's say we expect to have this guidebook as an open book where, according with the evolution of the software, also the feedback that we get from the user to improve its functionality, its the content of the information. After this upgrade, we already have these sector upgrades. We will proceed with the two big cross-cutting upgrade, which is the uncertainty analysis, in order to allow also approach to Monte Carlo analysis, and then consequently also to allow approach to for the key category analysis, so to include the uncertainty component in the key category analysis. And we are doing this thanks to support, especially external support, especially from the UNFCCC Secretariat and the US EPA agency. And we also plan to produce translation, but this is something that we may start only when the software has been completely upgraded. In the meanwhile, anyhow, because we already have some courtesy, let's say, translation in Arabic, French. So if any country wish to provide us some support in order to go for these complement, let's say, translation, and not official translation, just to help the user, we are happy to work on that. But anyhow, we have planned to do this, but at the end of the complete upgrade of in the software capacity. And usually we have every year an event that is to get the feedback, to collect the feedback from the inventory user, and also from the user of the emission factor database. That is also another important tool that we manage, we keep upgrading for supporting the inventory compilers. Unfortunately, because of COVID, the last 2 years, we could not have the meeting. This is a pity, because in the meeting, we really had the opportunity to go with to listen which are the main challenges, and also to think about how the software may be made more flexible to deal with all these challenges. But we hope for this year, for the next year, for the 2021, to have this possibility. I guess this is the last news about the software. Thank you. If you're happy to answer any specific question.
Thank you, Sandro. The IPCC software tool is going to be a very important tool in as countries start transitioning to biennial transparency report. So, and if having this tool available in different languages will definitely help the use of it, because quite often the language can be a barrier in terms of absorptive capacity of the technical knowledge, and then I think that applies to everything else as well. So we have come to the end of the first round of panel interventions. I will take a couple, we still have about 15 minutes, so I can take a few questions from the floor. There are 4 microphones on left hand, right side. If you do have questions, please feel free to come to one of those microphones. And yes, there, please. Can you please tell us your name, where are you from, so that...
Thank you. My name is Frederick. I'm from Kenya.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to ask 2 questions. majorly. But most importantly to note first is that we are getting into a dispensation where developing countries have to report, which has not been done. And based on the trends and how things have been going, definitely there are developing countries that are yet to submit a BUR up to now. So we are transitioning to the enhanced transparency from Kenya being one of them. If you look at the reporting requirements under the BUR and the requirements under the BTR, definitely we are asking for more information, and you're better placed to know that some of the voluntary areas for reporting in the enhanced transparency are also the most important components for developing countries. That includes information, adaptation impacts, and support needed and received. Listening to Jeff, and of course, we listened to the oral report in June, the proposal to provide 482, which is an increase of about 130,000, considering the additional areas of reporting go even beyond what was required under the BUR. That definitely is not going to be adequate, and therefore, is Jeff already thinking around of increasing that amount, possibly to about 600 or even more? In terms of capacity for developing countries to be able to report issues around tracking progress, there is need for a readiness phase. I don't know whether CBIT can facilitate, because listening to Jeff's colleague when we were in the negotiations, is that it takes now at least 26 months to get project approved up to the final end of it. And we have only two years transitional period. Is there a mechanism that Jeff is putting in place to be able to fast track developing country in terms of capacity building, be able to submit the first reports by 2024? And then to UNEP, and this is a challenge I think we've had. For example, Kenya submitted a request based on the Jeff report for the preparation of the BUR 6 years ago. Kenya is yet to do a BUR, yet we are moving into a mandatory reporting period where we have to report within 2 years. So at the implementing entity level, what systems are you putting in place to ensure that the bureaucracy, because we have challenges with CBIT as well, based on at the implementing entity level, not even at the Jeff level. What are we doing at that level to ensure that these processes are going to be fast-tracked, to ensure that developing countries are facilitated as required to be able to submit those reports by 2024. Finally, to the IPCC as to whether this time around they're considering producing a version for the MARC operating system, because that wasn't the initial tool. Thank you.
Yes, Rehab, please.
Thank you, Jigme. My name is Rehab. I'm from Sudan. I'm working as a National Project Manager for the Third National Communication Affairs Biennial Update Report. And I would like first to thank our esteemed panelists for the informative talk, and it was really very useful. And I had a question for Dr. Cheese. We always hear about what is called star allocation, and I'm very much interested to hear about this and how countries can utilize this star allocation. Can it be used for the CBIT projects or only for the national communication? And another question for Sandro regarding the IPCC 2006 software. And I believe that it's time for the IPCC to collect or to make stock take or survey for the countries to know what are the challenges that countries are facing. Because, for example, in my country, the highest temperature is 45, while the software only accommodates the temperature 28. This is one of the challenges that we face. So I believe that the IPCC should make kind of stock take or survey accommodate all the national circumstances of different countries that are using the IPCC 2006 software. Thank you.
Okay, we can take one more question if there are any. I don't see any, so yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much for your quick presentations. My name is Ernesto from Angola. I work for the Ministry of Environment. I have two questions, and the first one goes to Ms. Peace. Angola have submitted the second national communication inventory greenhouse gases in 2020, and we are getting ready to start the BUR, ETR. So I would like to know what are the main requirements that Angola needs to provide to Jeff so we can get that support, the financial and the technical support. And the second question goes to Sandro. Actually, I had the great pleasure to meet him back in Zimbabwe in 2018, if I'm not wrong. He was there giving us a training on the software as well. And I'm actually very glad that they came up with the idea of translating the software, because that was a big topic back then, and it's been a barrier since then. So I would like to know from Sandro, what should we done to get the update software and translation, because it's actually a big problem for countries like mine that we speak Portuguese. So thank you very much. That's it.
She's from Sudan, not South Sudan. Okay, thanks. So I'll invite our panel members to respond to the questions. Since you had the honor of getting most questions, so I'll ask you to respond first.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. On the question from Kenya, you were asking about how the countries can prepare their BTRs and be able to comply with the 2-year framework, as well as the status of support provision for the BTRs in general. I'm looking at the submission table of the BURs and what support has been provided to different countries, and it's made available as an addendum to the COP report for the JEF, and each country can actually look at it, and I'm sure you know it very well. So for Kenya, just a second. You do have the first BUR under preparation, and the resources actually have been provided to you, I think back in 2018. And at this point, we are actually waiting for the submission of your first BUR. And this is done through UNEP, and I think UNEP has indicated to us that your plan is to submit this by December 2022. So that timeline can still stay. And the question becomes, how are we going to go about supporting your BTR now you still have a BUR in plans? So from that perspective, it kind of depends on when exactly you can submit your BUR. And if you're able to, if you think you're going to, if you end up submitting a BUR after January 2023, then you have an option to request an additional financing, like a top-up to your BUR, to be able to make it into a BUR, make your BUR into a BTR. If you think you're going to submit it before January 2023, then the question becomes when you're also going to submit your national communications. And I can run you through the decision tree to be able to explain that in further detail. You also raise a very good question of what are we doing in terms of trying to make sure the countries can comply with a 2-year framework. Part of the reason that we rolled out the support mechanism, and part of the reason I'm here, is to make sure that the countries can actually access resources and apply for them as soon as possible. And in terms of the timeline, we have noticed that by the time there is, I would say, learning of the successive BURs, countries are able to actually start and finish a process within 26 months. And when we say 26 months, I would say the first 2 months of that you can even fast track, because you are able to submit something to us, and as soon as the report is submitted, we can approve it right away. So it's not necessarily a one-off thing. There is some overlap we can have to make sure that you can get started right away. Happy to explain that in more detail. Question from Sudan, how to utilize STAR? STAR allocation is for climate change mitigation. So each country would have an allocation from the GEF to utilize for climate mitigation priorities, right? And you can use it as a standalone mitigation project. And typically here we're talking about energy efficiency, renewable energy, technology transfer, land use actions, capacity building, so on and so forth. As long as those are generating climate mitigation benefits, and those are your priorities, we can support them. In addition, since Sudan is an LDC, you also have an allocation of $10 million to address your adaptation priorities through the LDCF. That fund is for the LDCs only, but as of now, we can provide $10 million per country to address their adaptation priorities. And on your question on CBIT and national communications, BURs and BTRs, those do not need to come out of your STAR allocation. There are additional resources that we set aside, and when you need to do your reporting, or when you need to have CBIT support, submit your proposal to us, and they are funded separately from your STAR. Okay? So, and I can tell you how much you have, and I think Sudan's probably already utilized the allocation. The question from Angola, can you remind me?
No.
Okay, I think it was related to BURs, no? Okay, can you tell me one more time what the question was? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so my question was, Angola have submitted the second and national community and the inventory greenhouse gas. So we are getting ready to start the BUR. What are the main requirements Angola needs to provide to get that support and fund from the GEF?
Okay, thank you so much, and apologies. So Angola, you have the first BUR under preparation. My understanding is you are to submit this in your plans by December 2022. So I would suggest you start discussing, this is also with UNEP, right? So I would suggest you start the dialogue probably early part of next year, indicating which modality you would want to utilize for your BTR support. Because depending on you're also going to submit your national communications, either you might do a top-up, you might come to us and basically say you want to do a standalone project. You know, it's not, there is a decision tree to help you address them, but I would suggest you start the conversations with UNEP so that you're ready to get started on the BTR as soon as possible. Also cognizant that you do have your BUR still under preparations.
Thank you, Chiz. I think that was a very comprehensive response. So
sorry.
I heard few questions addressed to Sandro on IPCC related matters. So Sandro, if you are still online.
Yes, I'm here. The first question was about, yes, the flexibility of the software. We are implementing a lot of flexibility. With reference to the climate, the new software, the new version, of course, is based on the IPCC climate, soil, and vegetation classification, but the user may build into the software its own climate, soil, and vegetation classification. Of course, when the user goes with this option, he needs then to verify the applicability of the IPCC emission factors, because the values reported by default by IPCC has been built according with that classification. But the new version allows this flexibility. About the release of the new version, again, when we will release, I'm sure that also UNFCCC with the GAG capacity building unit, they will help us to spread the news. Anyhow, the new version will have also a functionality that then will alarm the user for any further version will be released in the future by IPCC. The current one does not this functionality, but the next one it will have. About translation, yeah, translation is important. However, be aware that we are committed to translating the 6 UN languages. Portuguese, you may not expect from us an official translation. However, as I said before, we are extremely happy to collaborate with some volunteer that produce a translation. Be aware that the software has a functionality that may be translated, but any user may translate the software. You may translate word by word. So in theory, it can be translated by anybody in all the languages in the world without the need from us to do anything, because you may do by yourself. We are committed to translate in the 6 UN language, in the 5 because it's in English, so we need to translate in the other 5. But we are happy, open to receive, I say, complementary version in other languages, but we cannot work on that because we don't have mandate for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandro. We are out of time, but I would like to give a chance to our other 3 panel members to quickly respond to any of the questions, if you want to, choose to. But you will have only 30 seconds. Henning?
Thank you. I mean, there was no specific question, but I want to pick up the point that cuts across some of those questions, because I think it's very important for countries to be very strategic about what they need, to use then us, the support providers, to help you build the infrastructure that can make a system work in your countries. That is institutional infrastructure, that's the legal infrastructure, that's the IT infrastructure, and so on. And that's what we are there for. Of course, you need to be able then also to engage others in the country to be able to run the infrastructure afterwards. But we are there to help you build it, and we really need your guidance if we want to be most effective.
Wiley?
Yeah, we absolutely need, systems in place, including MRV systems, and supporting the national systems in each country, taking into account their own national circumstances. But my main message would be that we need to do capacity building until the cows come home. It's a never-ending job, because when you train people up well, they'll get a job. Hopefully we can keep them in their countries, in their regions where their expertise will be desperately needed. So we just need to keep at it and be systematic and know that we're in it for the long haul.
Thank you. Miriam, any final thoughts from you?
Much, Jigme, for giving me the opportunity to provide some final words. I know the sound is not very good, but let's try. So I think also from my side, just some final reflections. I think it's cross-cutting to the questions posed. Fortunately, Giris has been very useful, very good in responding all the questions related to the GEFU, of which UNEP is also part of, as an implementing agency. And I would just like to say that working with all this support to countries, experience is in climate change reporting, like in any other aspect of climate change, has shown that countries have always been working under the learning by doing approach. So as our colleague from the Caribbean said, capacity building never ends. So the best students under this approach are those countries that have taken early actions. The frontrunners, after all, learning requires actual work, and as Herbert Spencer would say, the great aim of education is not knowledge but action. So I know that we need, obviously, support countries taking action first with all this paraphernalia of toolboxes that ICAT is providing, support programs that UNEP and UNDP and UNFCCC are putting forward. So there are a great range of support programs also for countries to choose. And from UNEP, we welcome countries to approach us to help them to develop their proposals for also on the transition to BTR. As she said, there are already some proposals there for transitioning to BTRs. Of those, 8 projects are going to be or have been supported by UNEP. So here we are to help you as usual. Thank you very much, and good COP.
Thank you, Miriam, and thank you to all our panel members for sharing with us a very rich, informative information. This is not the complete universe of support opportunities, but rather just a flavor of what exists there. And there are lots of other partners, initiatives, programs in different form and shape and name. And all you need to do is reach out. If you reach out, I think that's the most important critical first step to make that first step of reaching out. And there are a lot of opportunities available, so please keep that in mind. So with that, I wish you a very enjoyable remaining days of COP, and thank you so much for being with us, and my very special thanks to all our panel members, and stay safe. Thank you very much.